Hello Year 6, I'm just going to show you how to do a quick simple shell drawing just using pencil lines and then coloured pencils. So I've got my pencil colours here, I've got my rubber and I've got my trusty pencil. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just draft out very roughly a triangle with a curved edge. And at the bottom, what I'm going to do, instead of putting a straight line across, I'm going to curve it. That will make something look like it's more three-dimensional. Now, these lines are just what we call guidelines. That means they just help us know where to go. So we don't need to make these very dark because they are going to run out. Now, the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to draw some diagonal lines going across. And in each instance, your spacing needs to get bigger. So I'm going to do that again there, and another one there. Then I'm going to ask you to draw in a circle. If you can't draw a very good circle, this isn't perfect by any means, but the artist Leonardo da Vinci could actually draw a circle without the aid of any implements whatsoever, and it was completely and absolutely mathematically correct. Now then, what we're then going to do is we are going then to curve off our lines like this. So you can see why these are guidelines, and they should be so light because they're just helping us. And I'm going to do exactly the same the other side. Notice that these widths are getting wider each time I work. And then what you're going to do is you're going to slightly curve those lines again to create a 3D. Might put another one on there just because I feel like it. To make it look more 3D, so I'm going to do that there. So hopefully that is nice and clear. So these lines need to curve. Okay, they should no longer be straight. That guideline that was straight is now replaced by a curved line. And I'm now going to put in, apologies, that was an email that just came through, my circle, and then I'm going to draw a double line in there so it creates some sort of depth going in like that there. Now after you've done that, you can rub out your guidelines that you no longer need, or you can leave them in, it doesn't matter, because they should be very, very light and you shouldn't be able to see them. So I'm going to rub out mine out very, very quickly there so you can see. So you can see there you've got a simple sort of shell shape. It's quite stylized. What I mean by stylized is that it's got a style to it, okay? So it might not, we recognize it as a shell, but it might not be an accurate shell as we know it, okay? So I'm going to curve that round a little bit more there. Right, my next stage is to start working with colour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the colours that I want to work with. So I've got my colour pencils here, turn them the other way around. And I'm going to choose harmonizing colours. Now, harmonizing colours are colours that go together and they're very, very close to each other on a colour wheel. So for this, I'm going to go with blues, to be honest. So I'm going to get a nice dark blue. That is blue, even though it might not look like it on the video. But I've got a blue there. I'm going to get a mid-tone blue. And then I'm going to get a light blue, a bluey green that will go in it. So I'm going to choose these three colours to work with, okay? So they harmonise, they go very well together. So for example, I wouldn't put like a yellow and a purple together because they don't work well together, okay? They're opposites on the colour wheel. So we need to make sure that we put them very close to each other. So different shades of blues, blues going into greens, greens going into yellows, reds going into oranges, so pinks going into purples, things like that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put those back because I don't want them, I'll put them out of the way so I've got plenty of room. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my darkest tone, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to work. Now when I'm working up like this, I'm going to work with my shape, and if you notice very carefully, I've got different size lines. I'm making sure that I'm working going across, and I'm sort of curving my lines so they're not straight. So I'm going to take my dark blue, and as you can see I'm curving my lines, and I'm going to do exactly the same the other side as well. So I'm going to do exactly the same, just going to put my glasses on there so I can see. I'm going to turn my paper around to make it easier. And then I'm going to curve these lines round like that. Now you may not be as fast as me. Now these lines are called structural lines, okay, these lines here, and these are part of our drawing, so I'm going to make sure I go over these lines very, very dark like those. So these are our structural lines, okay, our outlines if you like. So then I'm going to take my second colour and I'm going to start blending that in to my first colour, and I'm going to do the same come in the other end here. And then my final colour, I'm going to get my greeny colour there and I'm going to start putting that in. Now, what I'm going to make sure I don't do, if you notice I go over it with everything really, so it merges in. So I put my lightest tone in next. And if you notice very carefully, I'm going to leave, I'm just going to tidy that bit up there because I'm not happy with it. I am going to leave a white area in the middle, and that is going to give you a sheen on your shell. So I'm going to go over it again. So I'm going to go over my line with my darkest colour and then going to shade in line, and these lines need to be irregular, so I don't want them all the same. I don't want a stripe, I want it to be quite irregular. Then I'm going to do exactly the same from the other end. Like that. I'm going to add then my lighter colour, my lighter blue, add that over the dark blue, so bits of it come through, and then I'm going to add my sort of aqua colour at the end. Now if you notice, it almost looks like a sheen. Remember the structural lines, so I'm going to make sure those lines are very, very strong. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade very gently under each section, only one side of it. So in this instance I've just shaded under each one, so I've shaded under that one, I'm going to shade under that one, so I would then shade under that one. Now once you've done that and you've done all of these, now if you come to this one, I'll just show you how to do that one in case you think, well, how do I do that one then? So that one is exactly the same. Notice how I put my finger in the way so I don't go out on my line. It's a little trick for you there. Putting lots of pressure on my colour pencil, making sure my lines aren't too straight there. I don't want them to curve a bit, and I want them to be irregular, so I don't want them all to be the same length. So I'm going to do this from this end here, so I treat it exactly the same. Come around there. Blue. So by the time I come down here or get down here, I'll be starting to do it like I did last time, which is like this. So that will come around there. So this split with the circle, as you can see, or the internal side of the shell where the little creature lives, as you can see, is split up, but I'm working it in exactly the same way. Then I'm going to add my second colour as I have been doing. There we go. And do the same on this end. And then you put your final colour in. This is going to be quite dark over here, really, to be honest, because there's not a lot of space. So I'm going to bring in my aqua colour then, making sure I leave that white area to create tone, because you need three tones to create 3D effect, and you need a light, a medium and a dark. So the dark would be the dark blue, the medium would be the aqua, and the light blue, and the light is always going to be the white. So I'm then going to shade under, okay, to create that shadow. Now we're going to start working in these bits in here. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to start working with my shape. So it's a sort of a crescent moon shape. So I'm going to work out this way. Again, I want those sort of wispy, sort of irregular lines coming round. And then starting with my light blue, like this. And then my aqua colour here, making sure I leave the light on. in, not the light on, the light in, sorry about that. Right, so we're then going to do that there, and then we're going to work in this bit here then to show you how to work into this bit here. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use, notice, to make something look rounded, I'm going to use my pencil in a rounded way. So I'm going to round it. You can see those rounded marks I'm making, as opposed to, you know, just straight lines. Goes against the shape really what we're doing, so I'm going to start to do that. Now you'll notice that some of our structural lines are starting to disappear down there, so I'm going to talk to you about how you can bring those out in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to start to do this. There's another email just come through if you're wondering what that pinging noise is. And then I'm going to start then with my lighter colour here, so I've gone in like this again, using those rounded movements to accentuate. That means to make it obvious, to accentuate something, is to make it stand out, to make it obvious. So I'm going to do that there. Now, my next stage, I'm just going to look for a biro. There we go. Now, this is just a bog standard biro that I've got here. So your next stage, if you want to do this, you can. If you don't want to, it's fine. What we can then do is with our lines, we're going to apply thick to thin. Now, I'll show you something on the back of this piece of paper in a minute to explain why a different quality of line is important in drawing and the illusion that it can give. So what I'm going to do here is where you've got corners, okay, if I do that with my hand, you can see how dark it is down there, okay? So where you get corners, the light can't get in. So any corners that you've got, you'll need to make them thicker. So I'm going to make those thicker, and that will create depth. Like this here. So all your structural lines that you put in initially with that pencil, you would need to go over with biro. They need to be continual lines, so you have to see them all the way through like this. So I'm just going to show you something. That's a corner, look there. So I'm going to make that, and if I round it off, I can make it look more 3D. That's a corner there. Now the longer your line, the thicker it can be for longer. So I'm going to just take that through there. And then you start getting a little bit of depth. Now I'll just show you in the back of this piece of paper something. Okay, I've got two identical circles. Well, not brilliant circles, but they'll do. Right, so on this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double up my line, and it's gradually going to go back into the original line like that. And then if I colour that in, I create a shadow or depth, which will make something look more three-dimensional. Okay, so if you're looking at something, something will look more 3D than something else. So line can help things like that as well, and that's what will give you your 3D effect on here. But you want a discernible, that means an obvious difference between your thick to thin. So there's no point in having hardly any distance between it, and then we can follow that through then as we go along, and then you should have a nice little shell. Remember to use harmonious colours, and remember whatever you do to leave light in, okay, so you make your shell look three-dimensional. Okay, thanks everybody, bye.